All right. Forget about how I've said in the past, this is not my Superman. This is just an objectively bad movie. Now, I said in an earlier video that I was going to be objective about this, and I promise you, I went into this forgetting about my preconceived notions for the purpose of the movie. Now, I'm going to make some comparisons. I just think that's fair, because we've had a lot of Superman movies, and you can't help but compare them, right? But this is just a bad movie. This is a movie where things just are, where things are just there, where things just exist, things just happen. From a standpoint of storytelling, editing, character, even music, this film is just bad, mouth-gapingly bad, surprisingly bad. Now, I'm going to be specific, but before I get into that, I'm going to start off with what I did like about it. Okay, first, I'm fine with the fact that Superman already exists. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing a new director of a new Superman movie give us his take on the Superman origin story, about how he came to Earth and all that. But listen, I get it. No need to start over on Krypton with the explosion and coming to the Earth story again. I do get it. Would have been nice to see, but I always like to see a new director put his spin on the mythology as well as the story. But like I say, I get it. I think that Corenswet and Brosnahan had some good chemistry. There's a scene between Clark and Jonathan, Pa Kent, his dad, which is kind of sweet. And I have to note that the casting choices for the Kents a little offbeat, not something that we see before. That's cool. Ma Kent provides some of the comedy between Ma and Pa Kent. She kind of comes off like Batman's Alfred, because she's ready to chip in, ready to help Superman get his gear on so he can go be the superhero that he is. Another thing, I really like how this movie takes kryptonite seriously. That was a change of pace. I feel like ever since Superman Returns, where Brandon Routh is exposed to kryptonite, but he still manages to lift an entire landmass up into space, even though it's dripping kryptonite, I thought that was kind of bullshit. And I feel like kryptonite has not been taken seriously on any of the TV series, from Supergirl to Superman and Lois. That's just what I seem to like, I remember. But in this movie, they take kryptonite pretty seriously, and I did like that. Some of the flying scenes are well done. We get to see Mr. Terrific kick some ass. He had a pretty good scene. I don't know that much about the character. I get a sense that he does not talk the way we hear him talk in this movie.
You brought that dog, man!
That's a bad outfit!
This is what I'm getting from people who are fans of the character, but his scene where he had a chance to shine was a good scene. Now, that's all I got. This movie has zero foundation. There's no grounding in this movie. In terms of the story, the events, the characters, seems like anything can happen. Anything goes. It starts out with on-screen text letting us know how Superman came to Earth, how there are other metahumans. They call them metahumans in this movie. Not sure why they don't call them superheroes, because that word seems to fit more with the tone of this film as opposed to metahumans, which is a little bit more serious. Metahumans is a word I would expect to hear in the Henry Cavill iteration of Superman. But be that as it may, there are already metahumans on the planet, and then all of a sudden, we're told Superman just lost a battle with the Hammer of Baravia, and right then, right off the bat, we see the clip which we've already seen hundreds of thousands of times, Superman crashing into the ice in the Antarctic. Now, it's a common technique to put us in the middle of a scene and get the suspense going, and then you would cut from a scene like that to a title card that says 24 hours earlier, or a week earlier. But no, we're dropped kind of like Superman into the middle of a story. And as you know, Krypto drags Superman to the Fortress of Solitude, not before we get the tone of this film where he's jumping all over Superman, who's crushed and broken. Didn't find that funny. Anyway, a lot of dog lovers liked that scene apparently. I didn't. But he's dragged to the Fortress of Solitude, and from that point on, throughout the first act, you've seen pretty much everything from all the clips and the trailers. So yeah, we know the Superman mythology, but this movie takes that way too much for granted, I think. So many things just get washed over in this movie, and we just have to accept what we see on screen. I guess I was supposed to accept that the Justice Gang just exists when they show up out of nowhere. Well, because, you know, the words at the beginning told us that they're a metahuman, so hey, just deal with it, let's move on. I have to accept that. I have to accept that, yeah, Luthor is a billionaire, but how is he able to acquire all the resources that he deploys against Superman in this movie? Well, I guess just because he says, I created this, I created that. Now, let's move on, audience, okay? That's all we got for you. The filmmaking overall is frenetic. There are about 4 movies worth of plot in this one film. The camera is nuts all over the place with occasionally weird angles, Sam Raimi style crash zooms for no reason. At the beginning, particularly in the first act, the camera seems like it has to follow every minute action on screen. It's very jarring. There's frantic editing and wide angle lenses that distort locations and particularly distort up-close faces to comic effect. There are eye-rolling nods to the original Superman. There's a nod to Superman 4 Quest for Peace, Superman Returns, and there's a touch of Man of Steel, although in this film they at least hint that the citizens of Metropolis are able to evacuate when the city is under attack. The tone is frenetic as well. It ranges from comedy to a grimness to a dark tone. There's a sequence where Luthor is questioning Superman, and his methods are out of a totally dark, grim, R-rated movie. It was like, whoa, that must have been fake, right? There's no way they put that in this movie. But we move on. Even the music is intrusive and corny. It's a mishmash of pop tunes, along with a few cheesy orchestral cues and a very specific portion of the John Williams theme, which doesn't match any of the other music cues. And to give you an idea of how bad the editing is, it's really choppy. It's like we go from one scene to another. There's no typically cinematic transition, even for a film like this. There's a scene where Luthor says he's got a plan to distract Superman while he does something else. And then about 2 minutes later, literally, there's a giant fire-breathing monster in Metropolis, and Superman just literally appears out of nowhere to stop the thing from stepping on a dog. I mean, the only setup to that scene is Luthor saying, I've taken care of Superman. That takes place in nighttime. And we cut right to the daytime, and this monster is huge, and Superman is holding his foot. None of the characters seem to gel with each other. I didn't get any sense of why the Justice Gang is even together. There's a scene in the Hall of Justice, so that's already been built. It's already the Justice Gang. I don't know why it's not the Justice Society or Justice League. Did they not have the rights to that title? I don't know. But there's a scene in the Hall of Justice where the crew, they're just hanging out, they're just chilling. And it plays like they're a dysfunctional family just hanging out in a living room. They don't seem to like or care about each other. Clark's parents, who speak with a stereotypical, cartoonish, Midwestern accent, which Clark amazingly did not pick up, they don't seem to fit as Clark's parents. Now, I know I said Clark and Pa had a brief touching scene, but it wasn't enough to read as if these two, Ma and Pa Kent, had raised Clark from an infant. It just doesn't come across that way, or it didn't come to me. And by the way, growing up in the Midwest, growing up in Indiana, I took a little offense at that accent. It exists, but I mean, come on, not to that degree. Jimmy Olsen, for whatever reason, is a ladies' man. The women around him just throw themselves at him, even the women on the street. The only reason this is the case is because it's necessary in roughly the second act to set up a scenario that just moves the plot along. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's not like the actor looks like a heartthrob. He's not bad looking, but not to the degree that he's going to pull ladies like they want us to believe in this movie. Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan. She's good as Lois Lane, but outside of the interview scene we've all seen in the trailers, that scene where Clark and Lois are together, outside of that scene, she doesn't do a lot of Lois Lane stuff. Nicholas Holt's Luthor isn't very unique. He clearly is a bad guy, but he comes off as like a like a sociopath, and I guess Luthor and the Luthor character is a sociopath, but I want to say Luthor is charming in the books and in the previous iterations, particularly the Christopher Reeve iteration. This Luthor is just, he's two-dimensional asshole. This Luthor doesn't come off as particularly clever or calculating, but fortunately the script gives him the resources he needs to be Superman's antagonist. But he himself doesn't earn any of it. And as for Superman, he is a Boy Scout in this movie. There's a moment in the middle of a pitched battle where he literally saved a squirrel. Now that's a little overboard for my taste. I assume that was included for comedy. Again, I didn't like it. But this is not my Superman. I honestly believe this is not Superman, period. I figured it out. This is Peter Quill from Guardians of the Galaxy, which, as we know, was directed, all three, directed by James Gunn. Even more, this is Brendan Fraser's Rick O'Connell from the Mummy movies back in the 90s. That's who this Superman reminds me of. He talks and acts like both of those characters, not like Superman. What makes Superman special is that, yes, he's raised with good human values, and he plays to his humanity, but he is a natural leader, and he does kind of dwell above us. He tries to be like us, but we as humans see him as above us. And we want that. We want that leader. We want him to be above us. We want him to be better than our basest natures. My Superman is strong and confident, at least in public. Whenever he lands in the middle of the street, people flock to him in amazement. And yes, I'm going to go back to the original 1978 movie. Remember, if you're old enough, or if you've seen it, when Superman lands on that street corner so he can dig into Luthor's lair, everyone runs around him with their cameras. He's like, all right, people, stand back, nothing to see here.
Everyone stand back, please, stand back. It's all right, nothing to get worried about.
That's my Superman. He's strong, confident. He leads the fight. He's DC's Captain America. He can do this all day, to quote Cap, but not this Superman. This Superman seems to be a little weaker in power set, which is okay. That's all right, but seems like he was always getting his ass kicked in this movie. And crowds in this movie don't look at him with awe. This Superman is not given the weight that I think Superman deserves. In one particular scene, the people, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the people of Metropolis, they get some disturbing news about Superman, and instantly they turn against him. I mean, instantly. Even his fellow superheroes, they don't seem to look at him with awe.
Hey, quit messing around.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
And even in the books, I think even though there are other superheroes with powers and abilities, they still see Superman as, okay, this is the guy. This is our guy. At least that's how it was when I was reading Superman. I seem like I want to say in like New 52 or later iterations, Batman was more of a leader of the Justice League, I believe. There's one scene in the third act, which you've seen in the trailers, but I'm still not going to say which scene it is. It's the one moment where I felt like Corenswet was actually being Superman, and I got that little kind of like, my blood warmed up for a second. I felt it, but that was all I got. Crypto, the super dog. He will most likely be a fan favorite and probably sell a lot of toys. He's the super baby Yoda of the movie. I love dogs. I never liked Crypto, at least when he was in the comic books. That's one of the reasons I didn't read Superman as a kid. Even as a kid, I thought it was juvenile. I mean, $6 Million Man was one of my favorite TV shows. And when they added the bionic dog, I was like, I'm out. I just don't go for super animals. And to cap it all off, there's an extremely off-putting cameo. At least it was very off-putting for me. There's a cameo at the end of this movie. You probably already know who it is or what it is if you've read the leaked storyline or the story treatment that hit the internet. I saw it maybe a week ago. And I read it and I was like, no, that's not going to happen. No way. I mean, James Gunn is going to respect these characters better than that. But nope, it does happen. And it definitely proves a couple of things, that this movie is going to set up all of these superhero movies or the DCU that's to come. But it also proves that Gunn is not going to give these characters the respect that they're due. And just so you know, during the credits, there's a quick mid-credit scene that in the theater I saw the movie in, it made everybody go, aww. It made me go, okay, is there another scene? And there's a post-credit scene when all the credits are done where Superman goes all in on the jokes. So I'm going to give this movie, I'm sorry guys, I got to do it. I just on the structure of this film alone, on the filmmaking, forget about the characters and the fact that I'm not used to this Superman, I'm giving this movie 1.5 reels. If you had told me that the guy who directed Guardians of the Galaxy, which I liked, the first one I liked, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed you just on a filmmaking level alone. But just like 2 other franchises that I once enjoyed that shaped me as a child, as a teenager, Star Wars and Star Trek, well, Superman is that last pillar to fall for me. If this is the start to the new DCU, then Superman has been taken from me as well. I will probably watch it again when it streams to see if I feel any different, but I doubt that I will. And that's the martini. I gave you my honest thoughts. I had to be completely honest with it, how I felt about it. This movie seems to be very polarizing. All the reviews I've seen on YouTube, people either like it or really like it, or they hate it. I'm just going to put me in the hate it column. I didn't really hate it, but it wasn't good. All right, I'll just leave it there, guys. I will see you. I'm going to assume the next film you'll see me review is Fantastic Four. So hang in there. We'll get through that one. Please do me a favor, subscribe, share, and like this video. And let me know if you think I'm a jackass. Leave your comments below. I would recommend go and check out the 1978 Superman movie. It's not going to have the same special effects, but you will see the heart and the soul of Superman in that movie. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Take care.